Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 239. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, Daniel from The Inscriber. He will join us shortly. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, as well as blog, discussing all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, the blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com, where you'll find the links to finding Pound for Pound Box Report all over social media, where to find us on all available platforms that carry podcasts, minus Spotify, and where you can donate. Let donation be the best nation. Shout out to Jacob from the $20 dono last week. You can donate as well. There's a PayPal and a Cash Me link to where you can donate to Pound for Pound Box Report. $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever change you can spare, please send it out. It'll help us in terms of production and future work on Pound for Pound Box Report. Let's get the show started. Normally we go to the fights and whatnot, but I want to go to a bit of breaking news. I don't know if you've heard, Gail, but there is some trouble regarding the World Boxing Super Series, particularly as it pertains to the junior welterweight portion. I don't know if you heard, but you had Baranchis discuss his issues with World Boxing Super Series. Now I'm hearing through the pipe that Regis Prescott is seriously considering opting out of the World Boxing Super Series due to financial issues with that org. I just saw it across my feed and through 2K and my brethren over at Three Kings Boxing. Your thoughts about the seeming to troubles regarding the World Boxing Super Series?
You know, the World Boxing Super Series, for all its success in the ring, has had financial problems, has had problems with creditors. There's, money woes. And, if you don't have a lot of working capital, when things like that happen, if you're counting on everybody to pay their bills to you so you could pay your bills down the road, if you cut that tight, as many of us know in business, you're going to get yourself in trouble real quickly. And that's apparently where the World Boxing Super Series finds itself. And here you have these guys, some of the best talent in the world in their respective divisions, that are the ones featured this year in the World Boxing Super Series, saying, it's great exposure. I love you guys. It's all good, but I need to get paid. And you can't blame them. This is their job. This is how these guys earn a living. And not all of them can afford to fight for free, far from it. They have their own bills to pay. They have trainers. They have gym time. They have sparring partners. They have the guy that designs their costumes and does their social media. And all of those people down along the chain, they really do live and die by those paychecks. They're not making so much money that they can afford to work for free, not for very long. So unfortunately, a lot of these guys who have a lot of other options for fights can make a good paycheck somewhere else. Much as they regret having to do it or feeling forced to do it, they're going to step away if this organization can't get its finances straightened out. And what a shame it would be. It was such a good year, and the tournaments last year were so good, and the initial rounds were shaping up so well this year. To see it all crumble would be incredibly sad. We'll still see those top talents sort of filter out and scatter to the wind and find other opponents, but it really won't be the same. It won't be that route to the top, the best fighting the best, the thing that we all yearn for and hope for in boxing, which a tournament like that puts together. So we'll wait and see, but if one by one they bail out, maybe, even if one of the tournaments fades, let's hope, for example, that the bantamweight tournament, where, frankly, the lower weight divisions often don't have the same paycheck opportunities. Maybe they can salvage at least one tournament. Let's cross our fingers. But, I think other than the bantamweight tournament, the others are in real trouble.
Yeah, there's been a date set for one of the semifinals of the cruiserweight tournament, but the bantamweight tournament, Emmanuel Rodriguez and Naoya Inoue, from what I hear, well, from what I know, Rodriguez, he went to camp for that bout. Inoue's in camp, but there's been no date announced, no site announced. I'm hearing April either 13th or 27th in LA, but nothing has been confirmed. And as far as the junior welterweight, first you have Ryan Martin, who was set to fight Ivan Baranchyk. Both of them are having issues, and now the issue with Progress, who through his manager, Sam Kudvatsky, he still has yet to receive payment for his win over Terry Flanagan. And as a result, he's seriously considering pulling out of the W World Boxing Super Series. So yeah, trouble all around regarding the World Boxing Super Series. Let's just hope they can get their stuff together.
Well, and we can't expect these guys, especially the young guys on the come up, can't burn time. Time is not their friend. The clock ticks on their career. And no matter what their loyalties, no matter what they'd like to see happen, they have to deal with reality. And, if they can't get a fight scheduled and they're training, they can't waste that time. They're going to have to move on. So would really be a shame to see it fall apart. Fans are still going to see, the Inoues, the Prograis out there in the ring, just not within the tournament structure.
So indeed, again, shout out to my brethren over at Three Kings Boxing. I first saw it there, and we will keep you updated on the situation regarding the World Boxing Super Series on the Pound for Pound Box Report here on future episodes. Now let's get back to our regular format, recapping fights that went down. I want to focus on the main bout that took place in Frisco, the main fight, if you will, that took place in Frisco, Texas, last weekend, last Saturday to be exact. Eleider Alvarez, who last year scored one of the upsets of 2018, stopping Sergey Kovalev in round 7. I see Daniel from the Inscriber has joined us. Thanks for joining us on the show, Daniel. He fought a rematch with Kovalev this past weekend, and Kovalev, in my eyes, and I'll go to you, Gail, and you can follow up, Daniel. Say what you want about Kovalev, his issues in the ring, and more importantly, his issues outside of the ring. Arguably the most disciplined technical performance of his career since his fight against Bernard Hopkins, as he beat Alvarez thoroughly, convincingly, across the board to once again become WBO light heavyweight champion. Redemption for one Krusher?
Redemption in the ring, at least. There was no controversy in this fight whatsoever. There was no question who won this fight. He absolutely demoralized Alvarez. Alvarez just seemed to wither right in front of our eyes. He may have problems outside the ring. We don't know, until it all gets aired in a court of law. We don't really know what's going on. It doesn't sound real good, let's face it, at this point. But maybe, just maybe, because of that, or as a result of that, Kovalev had nothing positive to focus on except what he was doing in the ring. And he just shut everything else down around him, gave all his time and attention to what he needed to do. And he found the perfect person to bring him there in Buddy McGirt. This is the third trainer Kovalev's worked with in less than 2 years. And third time apparently is the charm. McGirt's steady, calm presence, his stay the course, work the plan, don't wind up for the big shot. Just work, win it round by round by round, roll up those rounds, stay the course. He was absolutely the voice of calm, in that ring. And that was exactly what Kovalev needed to hear. Because the truth is, we've forgotten this because of the Krusher persona and the fact that he knows that the fans like the big flashy knockout. But the truth is, as he was developing his craft on the way up, once he got past the sort of, crush him and burn him approach, he did start developing more boxing skills. And at times through his career, he has had fight performances where he's demonstrated really impressive boxing skills and patience. And he reached back there to what has worked and what has kept him out of trouble, because this way he was less likely to make the kind of mistake he did in the last fight. And he just plain took Alvarez apart. After a few rounds, Eleider's face was just twisted in confusion. He just had no idea what he needed to do, how he was going to get through this discipline. And really, he would have had to just go for broke, do something crazy, switch it up so radically that it presented a new look. And he just never got there. Meanwhile, here's Kovalev, steady as she goes, working the plan, working the skills. And not only did it win him this fight, looking ahead to what he faces among the other belt holders in the division, this plan will work for all of them. Now, whether it'll work to the same degree or be as successful, hard to say. It'll be fun to watch and see it. But it's exactly the plan he needs at this point of his career. Not to try to go toe-to-toe with these guys, but to outbox them. He's always been a boxer-puncher. Unfortunately, for a while in his career, he decided to be a puncher-boxer, and he's made the right reversal. And due credit to Buddy McGirt for figuring it out, for being the right personality in his corner at the right time. And this is exactly the same thing he did with Arturo Gatti. And it's not a coincidence that Main Event's matchmaker, Jolene Mazzone, who worked with Gatti and worked with Buddy McGirt in the last part of Gotti's career, figured out that it would also work with Kovalev. So props to her if she had anything to do with making that happen.
I'll go to you, Daniel. Unmute your mic, please. Certainly credit goes to Kovalev for the way he fought, for the way he listened to Buddy McGirt and the fight plan that was employed, and him sticking to the strategy, if you will. But let's focus on Alvarez here. As much as we want to give credit to Kovalev, he certainly deserves it. Should we draw some criticism at the same time to Alvarez, who seemed early on to, in large part, be looking just for the knockout punch, relying on the fact that because he hurt Kovalev and stopped him last time, that all he just had to do was just land a couple of power shots and Kovalev would cave?
That's what it felt rough, because I think Alvarez assumed that Kovalev would still have the same troubles that he had in the last fight when it comes to things like conditioning, and obviously the after ring issues certainly didn't help when it came to it. But I think mainly the plan was for Kovalev, as at least his plan for Kovalev was wait until he gets tired, because he's going to fatigue, and then catch him with the shot like he did in that round. The problem with that plan is that when Kovalev fought Alvarez the first time, he was doing he was doing his own training. He's doing what Pacquiao's doing now, pretty much. Pretty much having him running the whole show. This time with Buddy McGirt, he wasn't getting away with some of the stuff that he got away with in the first fight. And for Kovalev, that was all the better for him, because now he could focus, he could box, and ultimately he took out Alvarez with the jab. That jab from Kovalev was one of his best pieces of arsenal right up to the Cleverly fight when you look at it. right after where he won the WBO title the first time. It was only then, because of the way he won, he started to get that, like Gail mentioned, that Krusher reputation. But now he's back to basics. Like I said, Buddy Gurk's looking to do the same thing that he did with Gotti. Bring a guy who is known just to brawl and bring him back to the fundamentals. And it looks to have been wonders for Kovalev. As far as Alvarez goes, we know he can beat him. We know he has the patience to beat Kovalev. We know that he has the power to beat Kovalev. Now he needs to know is he can't just rely on the power alone to beat him.
Problem is, the mistakes he made in the second fight, he will not make in the third fight. And the reason I say he will not make in the third fight, because I don't think Kovalev, that team, going to fight him again. With that being the case, let's move on future-wise for Kovalev. Gail, you mentioned it. Opened himself back up. He became a name. He's become a name again in the light heavyweight division. Division is hot right now, with Gvozdyk, with Marcus Brown, with Bertabeev, with Dimitri Bivol. A lot of interesting fights out there that could be made for Kovalev. Bertabeev, for instance, has already said, "I want him next." Kovalev has implied any days afterwards that, yeah, let's make it happen. Personally, that's one of the fights I want to see at light heavyweight. There's beef there, legit bad blood between the two. I'll go back to you, Daniel, and then you can follow up, Gail. Given all the prospects right now at 175, it's a live division. Kovalev is the oldest fighter of the bunch, but as he showed against Alvarez, he still has something left. Who would you like to see Kovalev in the ring with, in terms of either next or in terms of his next big fight? And I must say that Anthony Yard, in the days after, was saying that he would love to fight Kovalev too. Anthony Yard being Kovalev's #1 contender right now, the WBO.
Beterbiev, plain and simple. Like everything you just mentioned, there's legitimate bad blood. Those two absolutely despise each other. So it's the perfect way to make the fight for them. The only tricky part about it is, and this is the conundrum we're going to run into now. As far as I know, Beterbiev, Bibble, Gvozdyk, and Kovalev are all managed by Egis Klimas. And like Gail mentioned before, and if I remember a while back, Egis Klimas really does not like putting his fighters against each other. Could we see a situation where they're going to be forced to? Yeah, that was actually the plan. We have to remember, for Kovalev and Bibble, before the first Alvarez fight. So I want to see Beterbiev, but I got to see how tricky it is, given, like I said, how Klimas works his clients. It would not surprise me in the least if he winds up going to somebody like Anthony Yard. Get the mandatory out of the way.
What direction did you want to see Sergey Kovalev go, Gail?
Well, I agree. The bad blood fight, a fun fight for fans, very makeable fight. And frankly, I think given the new look Kovalev 2.0 would do well against Beterbiev. He has to not let his anger and his grudge get the better of him and throw him off the discipline we just saw, though. And I do think that's slightly a danger. As for the rest of the guys, honestly, the only guy I think he needs to avoid right now is Gvozdyk. I really do. I think Gvozdyk has got enough tools and enough versatility to be the spoiler. If he has a fight with Bivol, which they both want, despite having a very cordial relationship with each other, and Bivol has said that, all things being equal, he would rather not fight a countryman. However, he understands it's business. But the two of them might put on, a very tactical showdown, which would be really interesting to watch. That would be a purist's fight. I think Marcus Brown is ripe for the picking. Brown couldn't knock Badu Jack out. Marcus Brown's power has always been suspect. The problem with Marcus Brown He's got some of the same outside the ring problems Kovalev does. So we have to wait to see how all that stuff shakes out. And the truth is, I don't think any fight's going to be made with either Kovalev or Marcus Brown until they get their personal issues either in order or settled, or they serve whatever kind of punishment gets handed down, should it go that direction. So we hope for a better Biev fight. A Bivol fight or a Brown fight would be terrific. He needs to stay away from Gvozdyk. Anthony Yarde, with Kovalev's career clearly heading for retirement, in a finite future, if it's as mandatory, I get it. If he fights him by choice, I'm not sure it's the best choice. Unless it happens in the UK where they can get a big audience. I think that's a very bad fight if he chooses to fight here. This is just, Yarde is not on the American radar. I'm not even sure he's on the Russian radar. That's the other option for Kovalev, is a fight in Russia. He is still a very big star and a very big draw in Russia. So I assume that is perhaps not in the top tier of options, but an option.
I'm going to focus the recap segment on that Frisco, Texas card. I want to move on to the return of Oscar Valdez, fought an Italian fighter by the name of Tommosone, stopped him in the 8th round, Daniel. And look, it was pretty much ho-hum, easy work. Kovalev seemed to be caught in the middle of switching styles. He's changed trainers, of course. Wanted to employ a more defensive style. He's being trained by, I forgot the man's name, but it's the same guy who's training Canelo Alvarez currently. Though I say
Eddie Reynoso.
Thank you, Eddie Reynoso. Even though I felt, Daniel, he's in a transition period of changing styles, it was against an opponent he could do that against and get away with it. Easy work, eventually wore him down and knocked him out. Your overall assessment, Daniel, of not Kovalev, but of Oscar Valdez, his return to the ring, and kind of the new look Oscar Valdez.
The new look is kind of more like the old look, because that was the style that Valdez fought before, interesting enough, before he knocked Gradovich. And because he was a lot more of a boxer at that point, he was a lot better at setting up his punches. It was after the Gradovich fight where he decided that blood and guts was going to be his way, and it led to a broken jaw at the hands of Scott Quigg. This was a fight where, to see how he was meshed with the Reynosos, and it looks like it's worked well. He's listening to the instructions. He didn't deviate that much from the game plan. And ultimately, the knockout came to him, which is always key when it comes to fighters when they're trying to get better, when they're trying to rotate his careers. They have to let their knockout come to them, not they chase it for the knockout because there's a chance that you might get knocked out. So it's a good fight, good test for Valdez, because Tommosone, yes, he hasn't fought outside of Italy. Yes, his record is, because of that, is very suspect, but he proved to be serviceable. He proved to really take Valdez's punches well for the beginning of the fight, and he landed a few on Valdez. So there's still some defensive things that Reynoso has to fix. But it was all a very good test. And for Carmine Tommosone, we have to give him congratulations too, because it takes a lot of guts after losing the fight there to ask your girlfriend for her hand in marriage, but he shot his shot.
Yeah, indeed, might be the moment of the weekend. Your mic sounds a little bit muffled, Daniel. It's going in and out, so I don't know if you have to reconnect or just change where you are on the Wi-Fi issues or whatnot, but just kind of muffled. You're going in and out on us. In terms of Tommosone and proposing to his girlfriend, it's not the first time in boxing history. When Nigel Benn lost to Sugar Boy Malinga in February 96, I believe it was, he proposed to his then girlfriend after the fight. They've been together since. I'll go to you, Gail. Your reaction to what you saw from Valdez, his first fight since his win over Quigg and subsequent broken jaw.
The fight did exactly what it was intended to do. Get him a real test in front of a live opponent. You can spar all you want. You can test it in the gym. There's just no substitute for live rounds. And they got him a serviceable opponent, a guy without a lot of tremendous power to put him in danger. So it got the job done. Hey, it got Tommosone some exposure in the United States, which he's never had before. Not a bad thing for him at all. And his girlfriend agreed to marry him after a loss. You know you've got a keeper when you can propose after losing by an 8th round stoppage and she still says yes. Good for her. So who was the real winner? I'd say they were both winners in their own way. But that is all Valdez needed and wanted to do, was get in there, test it, see how he felt under the adrenaline and the pressure, see what happened when he got hit for real, no headgear. And he did fine. Be interesting to see just how much they decide to step him up in his next fight. I still think caution is probably in order for his next fight as well. People shouldn't get too excited about seeing him in some kind of bone-crushing fight in 3 months. And that's the wise thing to do. His career was absolutely storming along there on fire when this happened. And you've got to take it slow so that he can get back up where he was and not undo all the healing that's been going on. You just don't want to do any damage right now. But otherwise, he looked good, and carry on.
Next fight, Richard Commey fighting Isa Chaniev. Commey has kind of been hard luck, if you will. Losing a close bout to Robert Easter a couple of years ago for a vacant title IBF. Losing on the road to losing on the road to Russia. I can't remember the guy's name. Kind of one of the best fighters at 135 who doesn't have a belt. He fought Chaniev for the vacant IBF belt, splattered him in 2 rounds. Even though the fight went 2 rounds, I thought it went a round too far because I thought Chaniev was dead hurt at the end of round 1. But then again, we're talking about Lawrence Cole, who's the referee, who may be the worst referee in boxing. I don't know why he would let Chaniev take that unnecessary punishment in round 2. Going back to you, Gail, to talk about this fight. Briefly talk about the fight with Commey. Also, with the win, Commey puts himself in line for a shot against Vasily Lomachenko, but Commey disclosed after the fight that he felt a pop in his right hand. It was supposed to be an MRI today. Have you heard anything about the results of that MRI? And moving forward, should the fight go on, your thoughts on his chances against the likes of Lomachenko?
It was a delight to see Commey finally reach that goal that he'd been working for so hard. Despite the injury, it was just a super performance. He absolutely crushed it. That fight could have been over easily in the first round. Sometimes a referee will give the opponent every chance to get through another round when something's happening that quickly, but there was absolutely no need for it. So he wins a vacant title. The MRI was postponed till today. It was supposed to happen yesterday. Still haven't heard whether it actually happened today either. Hopefully it's nothing terribly serious. He wants to know whether he can fight in April. He wants to have a fight in April. Should he be up against Lomachenko? Wow, I think I'd have at least one fight to enjoy my title after working so hard for so long to get that belt. And then you want to go up against Lomachenko in your next fight? I admire his ambition. I think that's great. Confidence is so important in a professional boxer. But damn, man, go have a victory lap fight. Please do it for yourself. Do it for your family, your friends. get another fight in that you can enjoy and show off a little bit, then think about getting down to business with Lomachenko. And hey, if you want to take that on and you have a belief in yourself that you could do it, by God, God bless, carry on. I'll look forward to seeing that. But I really would like him to to think about a tune-up fight or a victory
Problem
lap type
is,
fight.
problem is, I don't think he has to say so in the matter.
Yeah, well, he does if his hand is, the truth is, a little minor hand injury might be the absolute best thing that could happen to him so that he doesn't have to take the mandatory right away and Lomachenko has to keep busy doing something else until he can heal, and then their calendars, get staggered a little bit and take a while before they come back together. And maybe it works out for the best for everyone involved. But we'll see what happens. That MRI will really determine exactly what happens to him next. For now, though, the man needs to enjoy it. He is one of those people, good-hearted, community-minded, upright people that this sport needs. And so I wish him well no matter what he decides to do.
I'll go to you, Daniel, your reaction to Commey's win over Chaniev, as well as him aligning himself for a fight against Lomachenko. Do you share Gail's caution about Commey coming back into the ring so quickly? And for me, I'm like, okay, one, he may not have a say-so, and two, this is not the first time Loma and Aram has done this. He did the same thing with Pedraza when he fought Beltran to beat him for the belt. He came right back quickly and fought Lomachenko. So this is not a precedent. This is, there's precedence here.
There is. There's a precedence for the dangers of it. And while Pedraza did have flashes of success, even though the fight you can consider wide, you can also see a couple of things happening with him. Number one, yeah, it's good to take a victory fight lap after all you've been through. You lose a fight on the cards to Easter that many people, myself included, feel you won. You lost another close fight to Shakakov, who a lot of people, including myself, felt you won.
Yeah, that's the fight, Shafakov. Proceed.
Yeah. So he's had a hard luck. So, of course, you want to say, we want to take an easy, take a good fight, go on and go back to Ghana, have a fight there, have a homecoming fight, say that you defended your title once. But there's also the other lesson of the fact is you shoot for greatness. And I'm going to use an example of a fighter that I've mentioned a lot, but it falls into this category, and that's David Lemieux. David Lemieux, when he won the IBF middleweight title, he could have had a chance to take an easy fight. Take a fight in Canada, had, like I said, defended pretty well. But Gennady Golovkin came calling, and he answered the call. He wanted to show that it was greatness into it. He lost, obviously, but that's the risk you take, and that's what you got to risk when it comes to Commey. The problem is that Commey is the type of fighter whose style is in many ways tailor-made for Lomachenko. It's a guy that he can embarrass if he chooses to. But on the other hand, lightweight seems to be the division where Loma can get hurt. And Loma sees a few marks in his face that he didn't see at 126 or at 130. And Commey is a pretty big puncher, so we have to give him a chance. However, we also have to know that it may not be next, because you did mention the MRI. They immediately talked about the knuckles, but as much as I would like for him to take an easy fight, and as much as I would like for him to enjoy his victory, I understand what he's doing, and I don't blame him one bit.
One final fight to talk about. Teofimo Lopez, for many, prospect of the year in 2018, future champion waiting. Uh, End of the year on a sensational note with his knockout of Menard. Come back into the ring on the undercard of Alvarez Kovalev rematch to fight up. Tough guy with a resume. Diego Magdaleno. Teofimo Lopez impresses again. Had his way with him. Stopped him in the 7th round. I'll go to you, Daniel. You don't want a gun jump here. You don't want to be too hyperbolic. You don't just want to get too excited, if you will. But this dude, you know, he looks like a potential superstar. And at the same time, he looks like he's going to be a bit of a lightning rod, not just because of his ability in the ring, but his personality both in the ring and outside the ring. A lot of people, myself included, was a bit turned off by his antics after the fight, but yet and still, you know, like him or love him, you're going to watch him, and the potential for this guy is limitless. I mean, outside of Lomachenko, outside of Mikey Garcia, who's moving up to fight Errol Spence, is he already Teofimo Lopez? Is he already elite?
I wouldn't say elite yet, because as good of a test as Diego Magdaleno is, he's not an elite test. So we have to wait on that. But what he did show was he showed once again how to finish, and against a fighter who didn't want to get finished. And we have to give credit to Magdaleno. Like, for the beating that he was taking later in rounds, he was still talking shit after each round, or in the round that he got knocked out in, while Teofimo was punching him. Now, I get why people don't like the post-fight celebration. They're saying like you're kind of burying a guy while he's still alive. And we know Diego's brother Jesse took that very, very, very offensively. Although, granted, like we can't make a fight between those two, because Jesse, I think, is still at 122, if I remember. So you're giving up 13 pounds at least for a kid. Like
20, 22, 26, he's fighting in that range. I've heard stories where he is contemplating move up. Then I've heard stories before the Dog Bay fight that he wants to rematch with Dog Bay. So before Dog Bay's loss, I should say, to Navarrete, I've read a report where Magdaleno says he wants to rematch with Dog Bay. So it's up in the air, 122, 126, that area.
Yeah, but look at the division that also the Teofimo Lopez is in, and look at the players that are around. We know the top dog is Loma. Linares might come back there because 140 seems to be too much for him. Mikey is still considered a factor. Even though he's fighting Spence, he still has to be considered a factor. But then you have other young guys like Ryan Garcia, who is coming into his own.
He ain't ready.
Joshua, no. That's what I mean. He's not ready. Joshua Greer, Night. That kid is getting close to being ready, and Devin Haney's out there, close to being ready. And Devin Haney's knocking on that door, the same door Teofimo is, almost at the same rate, and even younger. So there's a division that has full of young guys ready to prove himself. Well, I agree with you that Ryan right now is not ready, but I would say Joshua's close, Joshua Greer. And Devin Haney pretty much is as close to ready as you're going to get without being called a contender.
I'll go to you, Gail. Your reaction to Teofimo Lopez's his win over his knockout win over Magdaleno, kind of the mini controversy that happened after the fight, where people were a bit annoyed at what he did, but more importantly, his future at 135 pounds. Like, and I said again, he may not be elite, but I don't know of too many lightweights out there. That includes Haney. That includes Lomachenko. That includes Mikey Garcia. I don't know if any out there that's more talented than he is. And I know there's not a lightweight out there that's, well, let me take that back. Mikey Garcia punches, may punch as hard, but overall explosiveness, maybe this kid.
Oh, I think so. You know, normally after a performance like this, or even a couple of them with some guy this young, we'd all be saying, now, wait a minute, hold on, pump the brakes. Oh, no, nobody's foot is anywhere near the brakes with this guy. And I think rightfully so. He seems to be the real deal. He has done this fight after fight after fight over and over. Every opponent that comes in front of him is touted as, ooh, a step up, another test. And he sets them up and he knocks them down. Now, did I love the celebration, you know, in his opponent's face when his opponent might have been seriously hurt? No, I don't. That is something a young guy needs to learn, is that right balance of tempering his exuberance and his excitement at winning with concern for his opponent. That's important. That's an issue of maturity, and that is an issue where a trainer and the team, the manager, somebody needs to step in and say, son, I get it. Here's the deal. Here's how this looks. I know you're not that kind of person, and you wouldn't want that to happen to somebody you care about. So let's find the right balance between celebrating your win and concern and respect for your opponent, because there may be a day where somebody needs to show that concern or respect about you. And strictly an issue of maturity, I don't think he has a mean or evil bone in his body, you know, except where it comes to getting the stoppage. You know, Gervonta Davis pulled a few stunts like that early in his career. And there was a point where I crossed paths with him and had words with him over it. And I'll give the young man credit. He later said, not much later, you know, I get it, and I'm really sorry I did that. So Lopez needs to be given a chance to be educated and let that happen. Now, as far as his next opponent, oh my Lord, I don't think Linares wants any piece of that. I mean, not at this stage of his career. Not a chance.
Not with his licky chin, nuh-uh.
No, I don't think so. You know, from Abner Cotto to Teofimo Lopez, that's a big stretch. Honestly, the best opponent to take on somebody like Lopez is a technician who can put on the same sort of fight that we just saw Kovalev put on in their division. So who's the right guy to do that? And it very well might be Devin Haney. And remember that Haney is his own promoter at a very young age. He's running his own business, and good for him. And that means he's got a little more control over his career than some of these other guys. And I think he might be the right opponent in a classic styles make fights matchup, because he would know how to play it a little bit safe. And right now with Lopez, that's what it's going to take. Somebody a little craftier, a little smarter. Nobody should get into a firefight with him right now, because they are going to lose.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Long-term Teofimo Haney, but they're going to build that fight up. That's years down the road. One, if they're around. Well, not if they're years down the road. Let me say, if they are still lightweights. I remember during the broadcast, Teofimo Lopez's his handlers was already talking about him moving up to 140 pounds next year. And Devin Haney, he's only, what, 20 years old? So if that fight were to happen, one, they're going to take time to build that fight up. Two, it's not going to be at 135. I anticipate it to be at 140, maybe 147 pounds. Yeah, you're right. No, Linares coming off of a knockout loss. It's a bad move putting him in the ring with that kid. If there wasn't this prospect of Commey fighting Lomachenko, I would say Commey get himself a title defense or two down the road, and then at the end of the year, early 2020, fight this kid. Both have power. They're still as talented as Lopez, Teofimo Lopez is. Still an unknown quantity about him, and that quantity, that unknown question: can he really take a punch? And Commey has the pop in both of his hands to see what kind of chin Teofimo Lopez has. But that's not going to happen. But right now, yeah, he's as talented as anyone out there. Teofimo Lopez, he has that look, no doubt about it. Be real interesting to see what his folks have lined up for him down the road. Let's move on to uh, some news here, Daniel. We talked about we began the show talking about kind of breaking news here regarding the World Boxing Super Series in terms of Regis Progress threatening to pull out of the World Boxing Super Series. I'm hearing now across my feed that he's indeed pulled out of the Super Series junior welterweight tournament. You've had others express their concerns about the World Boxing Super Series, even within the junior welterweight tournament. Taylor, Baranchik. We still don't know anything official about the bantamweight portion of the World Boxing Super Series tournament. Your reaction to the news regarding Regis Progress, as well as the financial troubles that is the World Boxing Super Series? Are you there, Daniel?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was unplugging the phone. Sorry. Uh, yeah, this has been time coming because I think we heard about people pulling out, or even the World Boxing Super Series being canceled as recently as I think a month and a half ago, and it was mainly due to the financial backers that the series is supposed to have not paying. And apparently it looks like it hasn't been straightened out because they try to say that the fighters, all of them got paid what they were supposed to. And that doesn't look to be the case. That does not look to be the case at all. So that is very, very telling when it comes to this World Boxing Super Series, because if one of those fighters falls, you have a bad thing coming, unfortunately, because there's not a lot of room when it comes to alternates. And Prograis right now can't, unfortunately, go to right now Jose Ramirez and say, okay, I pulled out of this. I'm still your mandatory. You have to fight me. You can't do that, unfortunately, because Jose Ramirez right now is busy. He has a fight coming up. So, whether he likes it or not, he's kind of got stuck in this place that he's put into. And you got to feel bad for World Boxing Super Series. You really, really do. It does. It is pretty bad, but it was bound to happen. Like, there was enough uncertainty in the air to say that maybe this is not going to go on. Maybe we should have put our ducks in a row as far as finances before we put it back on, because that's looking to be the case right now.
Oh, I'm mute again. Sorry. I'm hesitant to talk about this. Gail mentioned it before the show. News events, developing news thing about a possible fight that could be happening. I'm giving it hard side eye if it does happen, Gail.
You're going there.
I'll let you. I'll let you. No, I'll let you introduce it, and I'll raise hell about it. But I'll let you introduce this potential fight that could happen.
There is legitimate talk, not clickbait, not speculation. There's enough of a critical mass to believe there's some serious fact behind it. I personally cannot say I have any absolute knowledge of this, but a possible matchup between one Keith, one-time Thurman, and one Adrian the Problem Broner. Discuss.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I'll let you have at it, Daniel.
Oh, Daniel, I can't wait. Where's that Price is Right? Where's that Price is Right sound effect at? Wah, wah.
Not even that, Gail. Not even that. I was going to write this, but I was going to be calm because I was going to see what Al Heyman was trying to do. Because I was going to write a piece that said, Adrian Broner does not deserve another chance, but he'll likely get one. Because as much as trouble that he gets into, as much crap that comes out of his mouth, as much overall the black eye that he gives the sport, he is still one of Al Heyman's favorites. And between him... No, Thurman is too, to some extent, but Broner, like I said, is a prime example of somebody who is a definite favorite, who right now is just getting opportunity after opportunity that doesn't warrant it. And as far as danger goes, for Keith Thurman, I understand it. It's a fight you can win, and you could probably win rather easily at this stage. Because Broner's going to do what Broner does, which is he'll get into a big fight. He'll talk a lot of smack in the press conference. Then he'll put in on his routine where he says he fell in love with the sport. He's found it again while training, going to the club, drinking when he says he's not drinking. Get at least another felony charge under his belt during training camp. And then show up to the fight, not throw enough punches, and let the guy who can do the offense win. That's what you're going to get. But I get it from Keith Thurman's standpoint. It's a name. It's a fight you know you can win. And that may be the tipping cap, unfortunately, that another fight that we're all dreading is likely in the works. Because Manny Pacquiao is by all means the mandatory of Keith Thurman. And it would make him pretty decent money to fight Keith Thurman and become a full champion again. But we know there's only one fight that will make Manny the boatload of money that not only is going to satisfy him, but also satisfy both the Filipino and American taxman. We know it's coming. And I think just rumors of this fight is a tip of the cap that the other fight's coming too.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be one more fight before we see a rematch. I think there's got to be a little bit of drag out drama. And I'll tell you, there are 3 words. It's 3 words for the reason Adrian Broner keeps getting these opportunities over and over. And yes, Al Heyman likes him, whether he likes him personally or is amused by him or whatever it is, who knows. There's another reason Al Heyman likes him, and there's another reason he gets these fights. Butts in seats. Adrian Broner puts butts in seats. Through all that buildup, through all that trash talk, through all the nonsense, you know, he's a train wreck. You can't take your eyes away from him. And we're all at fault because we all participate in it. We're like Charlie Brown, and he's Lucy holding the football. We know what's going to happen. Daniel, what you just described, we could put that in the bank, and it's going to happen. And we know it. And we watch it happen anyway. So, I'll be very curious to see what the odds were, how this all plays out, but it would not surprise me at all if it came to pass. It's a makeable fight. It'll do money. It'll buy the time that Pacquiao needs. It'll give Broner something to do unless he's got his ass in jail. And it's not exceptionally dangerous for Thurman to have a fight like that. And make no mistake, Keith Thurman didn't look all that good in his last fight. He does not need to have a barn burner opponent in front of him, or bad things will happen.
Broner reminds me of Ann Coulter. Both
Okay.
both constantly get rewarded for bad behavior. In spite of all the crazy, nonsensical, inflammatory, out-of-pocket things that Ann Coulter says on television, every time she comes out with the book, they continue to book her. They continue to have her on these shows. Bill Maher. Every time Broner runs his mouth, disappoints in the ring, says crazy stuff, he keeps getting opportunities he does not deserve. Just like she keeps getting opportunities to go on television she doesn't deserve. Because it's like they know what she's gonna say, yet they have her on there to say it anyway because they draw ratings. They know what Broner's gonna do. They know how he's gonna act, but they keep putting him in fights that he doesn't deserve. I guess because folks like car wrecks, because controversy and negativity sells. It's ridiculous how Broner gets rewarded. I can see it from Thurman's perspective. You know, I'm not even going to be mad at one time for this. One, because he's getting back in the ring, he's fighting consistently, and that's all I ask. And two, a name is a name. No matter how farcical, no matter how much of a character Broner is at this point than he is fighter, I understand it, I get it, but I don't like it one bit, fella. One bit, Gail and Daniel. I just don't. It's silly to me.
Yeah, but if silly sells, if silly gets them down further along the road to another ultimate goal, we're going to see it. And people do watch train wrecks. I was wondering how in the hell you were going to make a connection between Broner and Ann Coulter. But you're absolutely right. They do get rewarded for their bad behavior. Frequently toddlers get rewarded for their bad behavior because they do something they shouldn't, but they get attention. And they learn through that reinforcement that it works, and they do it again. So here we've got an overgrown toddler, and his name is Adrian Broner. And so far in his life, his 3 decades on this earth, it's worked for him. And he's made a pretty damn good living doing that. I'm not sure he knows what else to do. And he shoulders most of the blame himself. But I do put some of the blame on the people around him who failed to guide him properly. And you know what? Al Heyman belongs in that category. Shame on him. Straighten that young man out. That's why it's so important right now for someone to pull Teofimo Lopez aside and say, listen, you do not want to be that guy over there, that bad actor. There are ways to celebrate and hold yourself up as a champion that don't involve you trashing your opponent when he's face down on the other side of the ring. And now's the time to teach him that before he gets to be nearly 30 years old and be acting up like Adrian Broner.
Or in the case of Teofimo Lopez, you don't want him to be another Panchito Bajado.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
and now's the time to stop it. Now's the time to make that go away.
Now, well, if that's going to be difficult to do, probably mainly because of a turn. When it comes to Broner's, because he runs everything there, and there's enough enablers around him, including his parents, that won't stop it because he's a money bank. With Teofimo, it's going to be a little bit different because you're representing a different area. You're representing Brooklyn, and you got to have a certain level of bravado to represent Brooklyn. But you're also representing, because we have to remember, he wasn't an American Olympian. He was a Honduran Olympian. And unfortunately, in this part of the state, Honduran immigrants get linked up with street gangs a lot. So it's mainly a lot more that he has to play into it, and there's going to be a lot of people that said that you have to be a tough guy for this because there's other people that are trying to test fellow Hondurans. That being said, the people that are around Teofimo Lopez and the fact that he has an actual promoter, you have to remember Al Heyman is a promoter in all ways and means, other than the fact that he doesn't want to call himself that because he violates federal law if he does. So if Teofimo has an actual promoter, there's a better circle to pull him back. And Teofimo should study, like, Bob Arum has a long and deep bench right now of thoroughbreds available to him. You may look good now, but you might get in trouble. Shakur Stevenson will take your spot. Joshua Greer might take your spot. So you have to be careful with that. And that's probably going to be the main thing. He knows there's enough people to take your spot, whereas with Broner, he's already at the top of his pyramid. And nobody's going to try to topple it because they make too much money from him.
Let's move on to going to move on to discuss some previews, but before that, you joined us late, Daniel. We talked about the issue with the World Boxing Super Series, and this farcical matchup, as far as I'm concerned, potential matchup between Thurman and Broner. Any other news that you want to talk about before we move on to the previews?
One that's pretty interesting. Like, we've seen a lot of fighters now changing trainers, and Gervonta Ramirez is on that list now. He has left the trainer that he's been working with since he was 12 years old, and the same management group that's been working with since he's been becoming a pro. I think he's becoming a full top-ranked fighter. They left on amicable terms. Like the trainer said, it's kind of like seeing your brother leave home for the first time. You're sad, but you understand it. And it's a warranted move because, unfortunately, Gervonta Ramirez has not looked good as a champion. Like, we still have to say his best fight was the Abraham fight. And every subsequent fight since then makes it seem not so much that Zurdo took the fight to Abraham. It's just that Zurdo just happened to catch an old Arthur Abraham. So it's a good move, probably a good move to make. I don't know who his new trainer is going to be, but it's going to be somebody that Top Rank picks. And it's like I said, it's a fairly decent move. I understand it. You're moving up to a new division, and with pretty much almost all the champions other than Kovalev being young and hungry like you. So good luck to Zurdo, because so far we've seen Kovalev having worked with a new trainer. We've seen Oscar Valdez work so far good with a new trainer. So good luck. That's all I can say.
Yeah. It's surprising he would just make wholesale changes like that, new trainer and everything. But we'll see where it goes, because apparently he's moving up to 175, and he had his struggles at 168 pounds. The lot at 175 at light heavyweight is much better than what he's been facing at 168 pounds. So we'll see where it goes. Let's move on to preview some fights. I didn't put this in the dockets. My bad, everyone. I'm going to start with this fight first, taking place at Carson. I refuse to call it StubHub, so it'll be in Carson by that other name for that place. I just refer to it as that. Gervonta Davis coming back into the ring. He was initially scheduled to fight Abner Mars. Abner Mars pulled out. He said hand injury initially, Well, it was initially reported, I believe, as a hand injury. Turns out it's the issue with a detached retina. Facing Hugo Ruiz as a quick substitute. I know they pushing Ruiz as a better opponent than Abner Mares. I'm not sure about that because Ruiz himself, just like Mares, was a former bantamweight who's moved up. Um, I've seen him get hurt. I've seen him get stopped. So I know they say Ruiz is a better fighter than Abner Mars, but for me, and I'll go to you, Gail, you're going to see the same result in this fight as a potential fight against Abner Mars, and that's, in my eyes, Gervonta Davis winning and winning comfortably. And because of Ruiz issues with chin being hurt and being stopped before, I think that Tank Davis, has a chance to not just win, but win by knockout.
Well, on the one hand, I understand the show must go on, and all things being equal, you'd much rather find an opponent to keep Davis on schedule and in the ring. Any opponent, any viable opponent, it must have been really tough. And there are a lot of guys potentially who could have been opponents who are either already in action. For example, Javier Fortuna. He's on the undercard. Was he considered? Don't know. There are a few other choices, but they're either fighting Sunday on the Ramirez card in Fresno, or they're fighting on the other card that same night, Saturday, out in Indio, California, on the Fantasy Springs Casino Golden Boy card that DAZN is airing. So I get it that the potential opponent list was thin, challenging. Here's the problem. Ruiz just fought on the Pacquiao-Broner undercard. He was to be the B-side for Jack Tabora, who blew through weight, who was 5.5 pounds over the weight limit. Suddenly Ruiz, who'd been the B-side challenger, became the A-side, and an opponent was found for him who had been on standby for a week since they knew that Tabora was going to blow through weight. And he did fine, and he won the fight. It was a grinded-out decision, but he went all 10 rounds. So here's a guy who just fought 10 full rounds, getting right back in the ring. I can't help but keep asking the same question over and over because we've never gotten an answer. That's the best opponent you had available? Seriously? How hard did you look? You know, Ruiz is at such a disadvantage. I get it. It's great exposure. He's coming off a win. He must still be feeling a little bit of adrenaline over his situation. I just think it's a bad idea. It's a shame what happened to Mares. The injury to the eye is far more serious than any of the hand injuries that were rumored. There is a serious question about his return to the ring. I wish him well. He's devastated by it, and it is a shame. It still doesn't excuse Hugo Ruiz, God bless him, being pulled up to be an opponent for Davis. It's truly a disappointment.
Your thoughts on the fight, Daniel, and your concern, and kind of respond to the concerns that Gail expressed about Ruiz and her issues of could they have found a better opponent than the guy they settled with?
I'll speak to Mars first. First of all, if you're watching Show Extreme, they're having his fight with Jesus Cuellar on it right now. But yeah, that injury is pretty bad, and it's an injury that has affected him before. It's one of the reasons why. Remember, he had a fight canceled because the New York State Athletic Commission wouldn't license him because of that eye injuries. In all honesty, when it comes to Abner Mares, he's had a decent career. He's had a lot of good fights. He'll be remembered as a good action fighter who probably won in the division where he wasn't supposed to. But there's no shame in hanging it up. Like, this is your second time that your eye is affecting you. I think the first time it was the other eye, the left eye. I think this time is the right eye. But this is the second time your eyes are affecting you, and you don't want to lose your vision in life in general because he has a family, he has kids. So Abdelmariz's team has to have a long sit. I understand he wants to challenge. I understand he wants to go up, but at a certain point, fate kind of tells you when to stop, and this may be the thing fate telling him to stop. As far as the fight itself, I'm even more disappointed. I was already disappointed in the fight to begin with because this was just a fight set up to have Gervonta Davis look good. Because did we really think that Abdelmaris at 130 pounds was going to be an actual challenge to Gervonta Davis?
Nope.
There you go. Yeah. And now you're having a fight that a guy who just fought. I would understand it if Ruiz got a spectacular one-run knockout. Okay, he's still fresh then. Yeah, then I can get it. The man went 10 rounds. He went a full fight, and you're throwing him there again. I don't know. I just don't like it. I get it. Yeah, you have to keep Gervonta Davis on schedule because you don't trust Gervonta Davis to do the things that he needs to do if you give him idle time. We understand idle hands are the devil's playground, but no.
And I'll tell you who needs to bear some of this blame. The California State Athletic Commission should never, ever have allowed this fight to proceed. I get the motivations of the promoters. I mean, I do get that. Point well taken, Daniel, that it's also a move to keep Davis out of trouble. But Ruiz and everyone's bad instincts, aside, he needs to be protected. You're right. He did not go through 10 easy rounds at all. He didn't get knocked down. But anybody, even in a marginal fight for 10 rounds, should not be back in the ring with a legitimate champion 3 weeks later. It just shouldn't happen.
Right. So it just sounds like they just put in a guy, late substitute, kind of a quasi name with a bit of a resume. As Daniel said, as Daniel said, to make him look good. This fight between Tank and Ruiz is taking place, like I said, on Carson. That's going to be on Showtime. The same night as this fight, it's going to be a card in Indio. I think you're going to be in the building, Gail. It's going to start with the main event of this Indio card, going to be aired on DAZN. Alberto Machado, very impressive his last time out, took his guy apart in one round. I think he may be the hardest puncher in the division, fighting a guy by the name of Sancio. To me, he's the real WBA junior lightweight champion. Your thoughts on Machado and his fight with Sancio coming up this weekend?
I'm very much looking forward to seeing this. Machado really impresses me. He was always sort of I would say a fringe, lightly considered contender, and he blew onto the scene, and you wondered, did he just have one good fight? Did he just put it all together on one night? And that happens to some guys. And then they sort of settle back down to whatever level they were at. But instead, it seems to have given Machado that extra boost of confidence, assuredness, belief. The mind can really will someone forward. And that's what I see in Machado. He had a great performance, and it seemed to be rocket fuel, and he's only got better and better and more assured and more powerful. He's extremely tall for the division. He's incredibly tall and rangy for that division. He's all arms and legs. Eventually, I assume he'll move up. But for now, he seems to still be making weight okay, and he really has blown through a lot of opponents. It's been very impressive. So his opponent in this fight is a somewhat journeyman named Andrew Cancio, who is on the way up. He is from that area. He's from the high desert area in California. He's a Blythe native, but he trains in Oxnard, and he was roaring along, doing great, and he He ran into a few buzzsaw fights, particularly he lost to Jojo Diaz, and it really set him back in 2016. But he sort of regrouped, gotten his act back together, got back in the ring last year, had a really great win at home in Fantasy Springs. It's really his home turf. And then he went out, and 4 months later in August had another solid fight. Same thing out at Fantasy Springs, and here he is again on home turf. He'll have a lot of fans in the seats. He thinks he's learned from all this experience, that the maturity is sitting well on him, that he now knows what he needs to do. It's a tall order. No pun intended. It's a tall order. I give him a lot of credit for giving it a shot. And hey, a guy in his position, 30 years old, trying to make a bit of a comeback, works a full-time job repairing gas lines for Southern California Gas Company. You know, that is a dangerous job, working with live natural gas lines all day and then training around that. You know, it's one of these guys. I talked to him prior to the fight, did an interview, and that interview is now posted, that story. And what he said to me that really struck me, he said, you know what? I'm just a dude with a dream. I'm just a dude chasing a dream. All he wants to do is make enough money. You know, a championship would be great, but he wants to buy a house in Oxnard because he's a single dad with 2 kids.
Wow.
You know, who can't love a guy like that? That's what he's about. He'll put on a good show for his fans. No question. He'll give everything he's got. Will it be enough? Ugh. It's just too tall an order, I think. It really is. Machado, last time he went 12 rounds was last year against, of all people, Rafael Mensah, which is strange. But his last fight was a first-round knockout in October. And now he absolutely went through Jezreel Corrales, which was very surprising. And for a guy that, you know, wasn't originally known as particularly a knockout puncher, although he was getting stoppages early in his career, you know, everyone questioned whether he'd carry power up, you know, once he got into the higher ranks. Well, he has. And even the decision fight that he just had last year, it was an absolute 100% blowout on the cards. He had Mensah down in the first round. He didn't finish him off, but every card was 120 to 107.
Yeah, he beat Mensah up. I thought that fight should have been stopped.
Yeah. All I hope is that we don't have another 120 to 108 or 120 to 107 or, God forbid, 106 card. That it's competitive, that it goes rounds, that both guys walk away knowing they gave a good effort. But it would be an absolute shocker if Machado didn't win.
You have anything to add, Daniel, or did Gail just sum it up for you? Want to move on?
Yeah, it's pretty good summation. Like I said, I wholeheartedly agree that Alberto Machado is the actual WBA super featherweight or junior lightweight champion, whatever you want to call it these days. It's kind of bullshit what they did to him. The guy earned a title shot, and then because I Heyman threw a little bit of money, then they tanked the actual champion without actually earning it. But we'll leave that aside. Like, this is a chance, interesting enough, on the same night. It's actually a pretty fun fight. Now, I know Cancio's going to try to give it his best, but yeah, Machado's one of the hardest punchers. I still don't agree with you that he's the hardest puncher, 130 pounds, because Mikhail Berchelt might actually say something about that, but it'll be an interesting fight. And actually, it's kind of poetic in a way. Both men are fighting on different cards. Both men are fighting opponents that they know we're going to have that don't really are going to provide much of a test for them. But if Tank Davis doesn't get a quick knockout and actually has to work with Ruiz for a few rounds, and Machado blows out Cancio, That's a statement. That's a statement to people looking around. There'll be a statement to the WBA saying, I'm the real champion. Make me the real champion again.
Let's move on to. I'll go to you on this one. Going back to you, Daniel. You look. Talk about Ray Vargas. He's defending the belt against a guy by the name of Manzanilla. I paused because trying to think of something positive to say about Ray Vargas. Let's just say his style can be very, very mundane. I don't know much about Manzanilla, but given what we know of Vargas, can we just sit here and just say this is going to be a 12-round bout and the action is going to be pretty meh?
In a way, yeah. In a way, yeah. And I don't know if it's because of Vargas's issues with Nacho Bernstein. We know he has had issues. He wanted Bernstein to be his exclusive trainer, and Nacho pretty much told him no. We don't know it's because of that, but Vargas will fight. Yeah, he'll fight 12 rounds, but he'll fight to win those 12 rounds. And we know that there's going to be somebody paying much attention to that fight in Daniel Roman. So maybe he does the fight where he actually starts putting the gas pedal because he has the capability to. Like Machado, he's tall for his division. So there might be a chance for him to fully get a good shot in and make a splash because there's people watching and you're in a pretty decent division, so I suggest you do it. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. It's going to be 12 rounds. It's going to be mundane, but he'll win. That'll be what matters to him. He'll win.
Yeah, he'll absolutely win. I mean, it is going to be land of the giants out there in Indio with Machado and with Vargas back to back in the main and the co-main. Vargas is just an enigma in this division. He has made the rounds of all the sort of known names in Southern California. He's fought Hovhannissian, Negrete, Ronnie Rios. That was the fight that he really sort of got some people's attention. Christian Esquivel back in the day. He's just sort of made the rounds, been content to win the fights. Sort of doesn't give a shit about how he does it. He just wants the O on the record, and he is, shockingly, he is so under the radar for being 32-0 with 22 knockouts. You look at that record and think, well, damn. And he's ranked in the top 5 of the division. But, does he inspire a lot of enthusiasm? No. No, he is a really atypical Mexican fighter. He fights smarter rather than harder, but it isn't always very entertaining. And it hasn't, in some ways, it hasn't served him all that well. So he's up against a guy who, is really not going to probably present much of a challenge talent-wise. He's a native Venezuelan who's training in Colombia. This will be his first fight in the United States, I believe, his opponent. He's fought in Mexico. That's about as close as he's gotten. And I don't mean Baja. I mean in Mexico City. So he's kind of your typical unknown South American fighter who, will show well and fold. And at some point, you really do have to say about Ray Vargas, what's the point of all this? What are we working toward here? What's the objective? Nominally, there is a title on the line in this fight. There is a WBC Super Bantamweight title on the line, but come on, who are we kidding? But hey, it's a co-main. It'll put some time in, gets Vargas back in the ring. He was last in the ring in May. Pardon me. He was last in the ring. He was last in the ring in May. So we'll see what happens. You know, I am always hopeful to be surprised. I don't think I'm going to see a surprise.
I was going to talk about Jojo Diaz, but I'm going to skip that right now because it's not that I'm not interested in his fight. I am more interested in what could be down the road should he win. So I want to skip that and try to go back to him next week, Jojo Diaz specifically, because no, I'm sorry. I got someone confused. I got him confused with someone else. Uh, I am sorry. Uh, Wait a minute, Jojo Diaz does fight on this card, yeah. So yeah, I want to talk more about Jojo Diaz and what could be down the road because should he win, there could be a big fight for him down the road. Let's move on and talk about what's happening Sunday. Again, Sunday boxing on Sunday Championship Boxing here on ESPN. Again, a surprise. Not used to this. Jose Ramirez defending his junior welterweight title against Jose Zepeda. I go back to you, Gail. Zepeda 30-1. His one loss came against Daniel's favorite fighter, Terry Flanagan. I put an asterisk on that deal because he's suffered a dislocated shoulder in that bout. Zepeda, good fighter, can box, has pop in his punches. I'm going to be trained for this fight by Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach used to train Jose Ramirez. My concern going into this, Gail, is that 2 fights back, I believe it was, I saw Zepeda fight in Mexico. The name of the guy escapes me who we fought, but he showed himself to be vulnerable to the body. He got put down with some body shots before he eventually got up and won by another Mexican fighter by the name of Ramirez. I believe, I can't remember his first name. And that's my problem here. Zepeda on the outside looks like he has what it takes to give Ramirez a really good fight. And I think he will because Zepeda is a good fighter, and also Ramirez, he just has a style that produces good fights no matter he's in the ring with. My problem is, Gail, because I think Zepeda is susceptible to the body, that's where I think he's in trouble. Ramirez, outstanding stamina, uh, from opening bell to closing bell, he brings it all fight long, and his body attack is elite, particularly the left hook to the body. And I think it's because of the body work and because of the conditioning, I think in the end, Ramirez is going to be just too much for Zepeda. Your thoughts?
Absolutely agreed. First of all, can we say how much we love Sunday boxing? I'll speak for myself. I love these Sunday boxing cards. This is phenomenal. And hell, now we don't have the NFL to distract some of you.
Including that boring Super Bowl last weekend. Yeah.
What a snooze. I love it. It's great for the communities where these cards take place. And once again, this will be in Fresno, in Jose's hometown at the Save Mart Center. And darn it, they fill that place. They put close to the 15,000 capacity seats. You know, they put that many people in that place. That is phenomenal. I absolutely love it. Do I love Zepeda as the opponent? Ugh, not really. You're right. Zepeda had that fight against Terry Flanagan. That was sort of his big launch to fame. He was hoping in 2015, had to retire due to a dislocated shoulder. By the way, he suffered the dislocation very early in the fight. Second, third round, he made it almost all the way to the end of the fight, and it got stopped. And it was not just the injury, it was the demoralizing nature of the fact he'd fought nearly 12 rounds or nearly 10 of the 12 rounds.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, against the fight against Flanagan, it was actually stopped because it was stopped in the second round because of that.
Yes, it was. You're right. It was stopped in the second round. Pardon me. You know, and then he struggled after that. After that, ever since, he has continued to fight. In fact, he had a fight just a few months after that, but he's been fighting in northern Baja, Mexico for the most part, where, yeah, they're professional fights, but, he's fighting guys that are 39-9 and 29-21 and 30-12. And, he's fighting Mexican Uber drivers for the most part. And now those cards go on in those small arenas in, Mexicali and Tecate. And these are, the equivalent of fighting in little towns in Kansas. Okay. So he's kept busy. His record looks good. I mean, you just look at the record, 30-1, 25 knockouts. Looks pretty good. I think part of the reason that he is getting this fight, he'll give Ramirez work. He probably will bring some fans up to Fresno. He's not from that far away. And he's a southpaw. Not a bad idea for Ramirez to get a southpaw in front of him. And let's also remember that Ramirez's last fight, he won handily, but he worked hard against a very determined Antonio Orozco. It was a tremendously good fight. So I get it that it's, okay for him to have an opponent like this. And the one thing I really do like is the fact that a southpaw is being put in front of him. I think that will be good work for him. But hey, it's Sunday fights. I consider that a bonus. His community loves him. He loves them back. It's all good.
Your thoughts on this fight between Ramirez and Zepeda, Daniel?
Yeah, it wasn't the ideal opponent I would pick, but it is a southpaw. You have to get ready for southpaws because your mandatory challenger can make a southpaw stance once in a while in Prograis.
And if Prograis, is apparently moving out, he's currently left the World Boxing Super Series. So if I'm there, I try to go back and make that fight with Ramirez.
Yep. So it's good preparation for it. It's going to give a good fight. Ramirez is the type of guy that no matter what the opponent you put in him, he's going to make a friendly fight. And this is in his community, and like Gail mentioned, they love him there because of the work that he does. So it'll be a good crowd-feeling fight. I have a feeling that Zepeda, though, is going to get rocked to the body. Ramirez will probably work for it, but I predict it's probably going to be a late stoppage. It'll be a good serviceable fight, though, because it'll get Ramirez's name up there. And ultimately, like I said, the goal for Ramirez is to have a big enough name where he can attract it to 140 or move up to welterweight. Because with Top Rank, we know right now everything's been building up to at least find serviceable opponents for Crawford that you don't have to try to snag from Al Heyman, Amir Khan withstanding. But
Crawford could fight that dude who's been talking mess about him on YouTube.
Well, if we're going to talk about Bud, first of all, he came out today said, because apparently Khan wants to move the fight to the UK. He said, I have a passport. Don't worry.
Yeah, he was mentioning that not towards Khan, but towards that guy who was fat shaming his wife, amongst other folks.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I'm literally I'm like, have you seen what he did to Hank Lundy? Because Hank Lundy messed with his wife.
Yeah, what is this deal? Don't they know better by now not to be going there with his wife and talking trash and smack about his family? And don't piss Bud off, people.
I mean, that was just it.
Please.
That was.
Do your talking in the ring with him, right? He'll at least respect you. I mean, please.
Yeah, that was just ignorant. Dude is a dick. Let's just put it out for what it is. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, some guy on YouTube, ex-fighter, maybe current fighter, went on, made a YouTube video talking mess about
The
Crawford's
title of the
wife.
video is
Bad
"Should top fighters be having pet girlfriends?"
he bad about I forgot the lady who the woman who covers boxing. Um, talked about some other boxing folks. Go ahead.
I think it was Phelps. He was talking about Phelps, I think.
Yeah. Phelps talked about some other folks who are on YouTube who cover boxing. It was just about 15 minutes or so of just ridiculous, maybe longer. He just came off as a big jerk, and he's been roundly criticized. I think maybe the British Board of Boxing Commissions is stepping in as well, and others maybe forcing him to remove the video. I don't know if he has, but yeah, that was dude is a jerk. Plain, put it simply, he's a jerk. Any last word on this fight between Ramirez and Zepeda from either you, Gail, or Daniel before we start to close things down?
It'll be fun while it lasts.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, regardless of what we have to say or what we think is going to happen, tune in and enjoy it. You know, make sure your eyeballs are on it so that we encourage more of this.
I think we're going to start shutting things down on that note. If you like what you've heard, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. I'm also subscribed to it on iTunes, and please leave a review. Review would really help in terms of the promotion and the push, particularly on iTunes. Go to you, Gail from Communities Digital News, for anybody who want to talk the sweet science, for anybody who wants to talk Game of Thrones, April 7th.
April, hey, first photos
final season. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Hey, we have our distractions from time to time from boxing. But when we want to talk boxing, other than the Pound for Pound report, you can find my regular column at Communities Digital News. Who the hell's calling you? It's probably
I'll get it.
I think it's Crawford's. She's thanking you. You find me at Communities Digital News, COM, COMM, Digi, DIGI News, comdiginews.com. And please, if you do like what you've heard, you know, the way you show your support, follows are great, likes are great, shares are great, views are great, but it takes $1 to make us holler.
Right. Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk the NBA, for those who want to talk boxing and the NBA specifically when it comes to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, folks, you can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99. I might do a show tomorrow, Return Classes World Boxing News. We did something, we pulled an EJ on Saturday. We actually we did the pod while the cards were happening. So it should be up on FortBoxingNews.com. But we may talk about, like I say, the fights coming up, because normally February is when we start to see the schedule die down. It ain't dying down this year.
Yeah, a lot of fights happening this month, particularly on Showtime. For those who want to talk boxing or music or fitness with me, you know what it is on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. As I said to begin the show, if you want to find out all news regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, blog page is the place to go to, P4PBoxReport.wordpress.com. To the right of the blog page, links to where to find us all over social media, links to where to find the podcast all over platforms that carry podcasts, and to Gail's point, link to where you can donate to Pound for Pound Box Report. Please, if you have the change, if you have the pocket change, if you have the spare change, please send $1 or $2 my way, or Pound for Pound Box Report's way. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Machado and Cancio, of the Ray Vargas fight, Gervonta Davis and his fight against Ruiz, Jose Ramirez and Zepeda, and we will do a preview of Rob Brandt, who scored one of the upsets of the year as well in 2018, beating Murata. He's making the first defense of his WBA title, regular title at middleweight. He's fighting a guy by the name of Katsan. I'm not going to pronounce his last name. I would butcher it. He's fighting in his home. Brandt is fighting in his home state of Minnesota. Leo Santa Cruz, we're going to preview his fight. He's returning to the ring after a bit of a layoff, fighting a fighter by the name of Rivera. Omar Figueroa is going to be fighting on that undercard. And I think that's it. Yeah, we're going to be previewing those fights as well as some fights on that card. So, yeah, for Gail from Communities Digital News, Daniel from the Inscriber, I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 239 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I want to thank Fink for joining us earlier in the show, in the chat. I know I didn't mention Gervonta Davis during the docket on YouTube, but as you heard, I discussed it during the fight. Thanks for talking about it during the show. Thanks for mentioning that Tank Davis fight. We all got to it. So yeah, episode 239 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. For Gail, for Daniel, I'm your host, Michael. We will see you next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Peace, folks.